Morning, guys. Luke here of SimBoxx. Welcome along to episode 18 of the Let's Talk Boxing podcast. I'm Luke. He's Jamie. We'll cut the bullshit. We'll get straight into it. There's no special guest. It's mad enough as it is. Jamie, this boxing world, man, when you think it's going to surprise you, no more, along comes another breaking news. And I think this has been one of the most seismic moments in the sport of boxing that never happened inside the ring. Conor Benn leaves Matchroom. He turns his back on Eddie Hearn, crosses the street and goes and signs with his arch nemesis in Dana White and Zuffa boxing. Jamie, talk to me, man. This was nuts.
Yo, it was fucking mad. I honestly didn't in a heart, didn't, I would never expected that to have happened. Um, One, just because how much there's a rival between Dana White and Eddie Hearn. Um, and for Conor Benn just to do that, it's fucking, it's a bit slimy in it, really. Let's get it. Let's be real with it. There's no loyalty in boxing, and fucking hell, he's proved that. And I don't know if it's all a publicity stunt and he's going to go back to Hearn afterwards, but I don't know. This is, regardless, it's snaky in it.
That's it. So obviously the news broke on Friday. I was actually out having a couple of drinks, and we see so many of these AI images created nowadays, and we've seen the Zuffa boxing image that they use on social media with Jai Opetaia and whatnot, and people have stuck Alexander Usyk on one, they've put AJ on one, and they've kind of trying to get sneaky views and clicks and likes and whatnot, clickbait, I think we call it. So when I seen the Conor Benn one, I thought this is prime clickbait. There's no way. There's only two other names that would have shocked me more than this: Anthony Joshua and Katie Taylor. If they had turned their back on Eddie, then I would have been more shocked than Conor Benn. But Conor Benn's situation is so unique with the drug scandal and the public backing from Eddie Hearn to turn his back on him at this point. He's seen him through the rematch with Chris Eubank, got him his world title shot with Seam in I think it was going to be in May with Rolly Romero. We'll get more into that. Just everything on fight week. We know how the business works. The Lee Wood Josh Warrington fight card was completely drawn out. I don't think I've seen one tweet regarding the weigh-in or the weigh-in results or the post weigh-in chit chat that we normally get. It was all Conor Benn. Every interview, you scroll through YouTube, and every interview was such a person reacts to Conor Benn. Such a person reacts to Conor Benn. It just felt like sabotage. There's ways of going around things, and this for me just wasn't the correct way from Conor Benn. It was an email from his lawyer to Eddie. Eddie wanted to speak to Conor. Conor said no to the phone call. Talk to me about that, Jamie. I'm going off on one already here, man. You have
Yo,
to rein me in. But he
yo,
didn't even want a phone call with Eddie Hearn.
nah, it's not like that. Do you know what? In a weird way, I don't feel sorry for Eddie Hearn because it's like
No, the game's the game.
the
It's
game
just
is the
this
game.
one fighter.
But the thing with the Conor Benn situation is, like you said, he backed you during the drug scandal, which at the end of the day, everyone still thinks you're a drugs cheat. And he stood by you, financed parts of your life while you were out of the ring trying to get all this overturned so you could fight again. Like you said, got in the two biggest stadium fights, all the money that he could made, and then just goes and ditches him to his arch rival. Like, I think the worst thing is it's Zuffa boxing and Dana White. That's what's made it even more like, wow, like you're a bit of a scruff, really, mate. Like, I know money talks, and I know that it's going to set you up and all my family, but it's not like the money that I'm hearing that he's getting. What is it, like 8 million?
I've heard $15 million.
$15 million, right? So that'll be about 10 mil,
Yeah,
10 mil,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
There's no reason to suggest he couldn't have got that. Mate, that what if they managed to get Ryan Garcia and Conor Benn on with a matchroom and a golden boy card, that probably would have made easily the same amount of money.
This is the thing, and these levels of contradiction from Eddie, from Dana, from Conor Benn. There's always three sides to a story. Their side, his side, and the truth. There's always three sides to a story. But and we're talking about relative terms here. If someone offered me and you 15 million quid for a fight, we'd fight King Kong, you know what I mean? But if we're talking about
Oh,
Conor
settle
Benn,
down, settle down.
Jamie will do it for 20 quid in a Twix. But talking relative terms, as you've just said there, he's been paid a truckload of money for these two fights with Chris Eubank. He's as hot as he's ever going to be, I dare say, coming off that Eubank win. He might go on and win world titles. We'll chat about that. But in those terms, 8, $12 million, whatever he got for those two fights, 15 mil isn't that much more than what he's going to earn anyway. So we're not talking, he says, I'm securing my family's future. One fight deal, $15 million. What if he goes into that one fight and loses? You know, he's not. He can't have a $15 million gimme fight, can he? It's going to be a real fight. So, what's his marketability after all that? Um, and as you said, there's no reason to suggest that he wouldn't have got that money fighting a Ryan Garcia, fighting a Rolly Romero on a Matchroom slash Ring Magazine slash Riyadh season card, whichever way they wanted to market it. Jamie Moore said it, Carl Frampton said it, and I spoke to Alfie Middlemass in an interview tonight that'll be up on the YouTube channel about it's got to be relative. We're not talking about plucking a fighter from obscurity and making out like he's won the lottery when he was already earning money comparative to what he's being offered. It doesn't make sense to me, that side of things. You're not securing your family's future on a one fight deal for money you was going to earn in two fights anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why the I don't agree with the whole. Well, the money is always going to set me up because, like I said, you could have done that with Matchroom, but at the same time, I don't really feel sorry for Matchroom because over the years they've dropped boxes when it's not really gone their way and they've not made money from them. So it's a dog eat dog world in that regard, and there's no real loyalty. I just think maybe this one was one where
Yeah, it's a unique case, isn't it? It's a unique case.
yeah, it's a bit more unique. It's obviously, people can argue that, oh well, Sky Sports built Eddie Hearn and he was quick to ditch them for DAZN for all that money that he was getting instead Sky couldn't compete with. So, it swings and roundabouts really, but I think this one's just a bit naughty with just the way it's all panned out and the fact that it's with Zuffa and don't know, maybe maybe behind the scenes, maybe we're all just getting riled up and talking about it, and he's going to have his one fight deal and then come back to Matchroom and they're going to laugh about it later down the line. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
we'll get on. Go on. I'll let you finish.
sorry, just to carry on but I don't think that's the case with how Barry Hearn and Eddie Hearn have reacted on the back of it as well.
Well, you know what? We'll grab the bull by the horns there because that was something I was going to get onto later on about whether it being the one fight deal, what that one fight will entail, and also from Conor Benn, he said that he wants Eddie to still be a part of his team. That Eddie's his boy. That he's got a lot of respect for Eddie, for Frank, and for Barry Hearn. When I listen to Conor Benn speak, it's weird. It's almost like when you speak to your missus after she has a one night stand and she's like dead blank and you're really emotional because Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith and Barry Hearn especially are very, very emotional. And he was quick to mention the loans that we helped him out with hundreds of thousands of pounds. And when they felt like they've had the fingers burnt, then they're well within the rights to mention that, I guess. But he was quick to bring that up. It never would have got mentioned before. And I think it was only Chris Eubank at a press conference that said he's funding your lifestyle because you're skint. That got brushed under the carpet at the time, and now you look back and think, did Chris know more than he was letting on? It just, I don't know, it looks a lot more emotional on the Hearn, Matchroom, Frank Smith kind of side of things. They're taking it a lot more personal than Conor Benn seems. So when he's saying I want him to still be part of my team, that in the future I want him to work with me, like Eddie Hearn's not going to turn up at this Zuffa boxing event that Conor's going to be at. He's not going to be in his corner. He's not going to. I wouldn't have thought anyway. Give Dana White that satisfaction. Um, so Conor Benn, he's burnt bridges, but he doesn't seem to see that he's burnt bridges. Like, stranger things is happening in boxing. Let's have it right. Look at Tyson Fury's come back, ballooned up to what 26, 27 stone, and he come back and demolished Deontay Wilder across three fights. And who would have thought that at the time? So strange things do happen in the sport of boxing, but it looks like it's landed a lot more personal on the Hearn side of things. Can you see?
Yeah, I think
Then
I
again,
can understand
of
why.
course they'll swallow the pride. Of course they'll swallow the pride. I don't know what I'm getting at here, but he seems like it's a one fight. I'm going to nip over here. But if that was the case, why didn't he do what Joshua did with
Do
the
you know
Netflix
what's
thing? Why didn't he do the Katie Taylor thing when they got the Netflix thing? You tell your promoter, he'll go, this is too good to turn down. Go and do it and come back. It's the blank refusal to even talk to him. That's the bit that's making it a bit weird. He wants to stay with Eddie in the future, keep it cool, keep it cordial, but then doesn't engage in the conversation that Eddie wants. And Eddie Hearn seems like, and Frank Smith and Barry are all like, now fuck that, he's gone.
yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's like you're saying in your little statement that you want Eddie Hearn to still be about your team, but you're not going to give him the decency of a phone call to let him know what your next moves are. And I think I think the fact that they've not just invested the money into Conor Benn in terms of his career, but also while they weren't fighting, but I think it's how much they backed and fought him, and when everyone doubted him with the Chris Eubank rematch, and everyone's like always sort of not rated Conor Benn in a way. So, and they've always backed him, and I think they took it a bit more personal because obviously he looks after his dad as well. And, you talk about, I don't know, I don't even know what to say about it because I feel like both sides of the coin, boxer and promoter, it happens all over the place. But I just think it kind of shows. I don't know whether it's Conor Benn's like, I don't know whether he's like, what's the word? Do you know when someone's just can't see like
Think
what the issues are and like why that would be wrong? Do you know, like not saying it's like legally wrong or but in a moral aspect it's a little bit wrong,
let's
and the
have it
fact that you
right though.
can't see it is a bit mad. The fact that that's what I can't understand, and maybe that's a show more of maybe he's not that nice of a person
Well, that's what I was
because
going to get to there. That's what I was going to get to there, mate. That it's almost like a naivety, like a delusion to not only like this and thinking everything's going to be all right afterwards. If what we're seeing is to be believed that Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, and Barry Hearn and Matchroom have had the fingers burnt, that they're pissed off, that they're really, really hurt by this kid that they took in as part of the family, in Barry Hearn's words. And then on the flip side, Connor's like, no, I'm going to get this bag. I'm going to have this fight with his arch nemesis in my corner. Then I'm going to go back and everything will be sweet. That to me screams delusion. But if we're talking about Conor Bennett, and Conor Benn's a very entertaining fighter. We batted for him before this drug scandal. We've screamed on the podcast and amongst ourselves that we want him to clear his name. We've still not had this 270-page document that he said that he had that would have exonerated him from all wrongdoing with the failed drug test. We got told he was cleared, but we weren't told why he was cleared. So it's starting to be with Conor Benn in my eyes that there's a lot of iffy moments. This just seems to be another iffy moment. The delusion that he's not even won so much as an area title, and now all of a sudden he thinks he's the most dangerous fighter between 147 and 160. Go and prove it. You've beat a drained Chris Eubank that's seen better days. Yet you're screaming from the rooftops as if your next coming of Sugar Ray Leonard, the next coming of Floyd Mayweather, the next coming of Manny Pacquiao. Everything around Conor Benn. If he's playing the bad guy, then he's doing a very good job of it. That's all I'll say.
yeah,
If he's playing the bad guy, he's the super villain at the minute. And this isn't a Let's Talk Boxing podcast just a shit on Conor Benn. We're calling it down the middle, like you said before. Eddie Hearn, boxing promoters in general, they'll drop a fighter, as quick as they can once they've got the money's worth from them. It's just I think this is a unique case because of the way he's gone around it, the person that he's done it with, and the background, the recent background that he's had with Matchroom and the help that they've given him. But everything's screaming delusion. He's mixing it in these circles at these big events out in
yeah.
America. I seen him trying to introduce himself to Errol Spence Jr. and Errol Spence was kind of looking at him like, okay. And kind of was like, hey, hey, hey. Everything's just screaming like, want to be with him with a
Yeah.
blonde hair to stand out. I don't know, man. If he's playing the villain arc and it's all a ruse, then fair play because he's reeled us all in. But it
I
screams
don't think it's a
delusion.
ruse. I think that's maybe just he's just I'm the big eye. I'm look like, and some people just get like that. You make a load of money. You and the thing is around you, people around you are always like, yeah, you're the best, you're the best, and I don't get in your head. That plays a big part. I'm not saying that's happened with him, but there is just moments of just grand delusion. Like you said, that you've never really even beat anybody. That's the maddest thing. And you sat there and you're jumping in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. Like you're not even on that level to be fighting him yet. Like Shakur shouldn't really even be entertaining that. And then he's turning up and he's going on about Devin Haney. Then he's saying, "Oh, I'll fight Ryan Garcia." To be honest, I don't even know how him and the Ryan Garcia fight would even work because Dana White and Oscar De La don't like each other. So I don't know how he gets the opportunity to fight for a WBC title for one of the recognised belts is beyond me. But hey, they're spending $15 million on one fighter. They've obviously got something big planned for the card.
That's it, and on a light-hearted moment, you see Chris Eubank Jr.'s play on the whole situation, and Eddie Hearn come out and said, "I thought this was the one time where I was going to get something nice said to me about Chris Eubank Jr." And Chris Eubank still said, "It shows how much of a scumbag Eddie really is when another
Yeah.
scumbag's treating you like that." It's so good.
Oh, he's funny. He's funny, Chris. He has to, hasn't he? He's got to throw a dig at both.
Absolutely. Again, and we're trying to approach this from different angles. Conor Benn said that he trained with his dad's WBC world title up on the wall, and that's what he's been chasing all these years. That he was willing to go up and go for the legacy defining fight with Chris Eubank Jr., given the history of the two dads. Two great spectacles. The second fight not as good as the first, but in terms of spectacles, There'll be all-time remembered fights. Now all of a sudden it's securing my family's future, which every fighter has the right to do. We're never going to shit on that. But now he's saying, quoting Miguel Cotto, that he'd met Miguel Cotto out in Germany, and that Miguel Cotto said, "Don't forget, it's about securing your family and what you do in the future, and those belts really don't mean anything." Which again, if that's a fighter's approach to the career, and that they're going to take the biggest money fights available, and they're not worried about belts, completely fine. You go and do that. You're putting your health and your body on the line each and every time for our entertainment and for financial gain. Your prize fights at the end of the day. But Conor Benn has built this whole shtick over the recent years that it's the WBC belt over everything. Now he's saying it. No, no, secure the bag. The belts don't matter. Overnight, that is as well. It's not like something that's built up over time. It was only a couple of weeks ago that he was. I'll get a welterweight world title when I want. Now all of a sudden that's out the window. Come on.
Can't really trust what he says, really, can you? That's the whole thing with him now. Like, if you're Dana White, I'll be careful around him. Be extra careful, and Turkey.
And the flip side then is, what if it is all a ruse? Let's play devil's advocate, and that the string was all along, that Eddie and Conor have had some sort of conversation behind closed doors. Because we're led to believe, if you listen to the Eddie Hearn interviews that he's done since, that he had no idea this was coming, that he didn't think he needed to tie Conor Benn down to a contract, that the word of mouth, a man's handshake is enough. That's money in the bank. You don't need a signed contract. They're kind of old school like that. But are we led to believe that Eddie Hearn, one of the most astute boxing minds on the planet, if not the best, puts on mega events year in, year out? Some of the biggest names in boxing have fought on his shows. Are we led to believe that he really has been hoodwinked by his, for me, third biggest star after AJ and Katie Taylor? That he's been completely hoodwinked, and that without him having one iota of knowledge of this going along, he's been able to cross the street, go and shake hands with his biggest rival on the week where Dana and Eddie was really going in at each other for the first time. Let's not forget. He signed the 5-year contract extension with his own. Connor's on the poster. Are we really led to believe that Eddie Hearn's been hoodwinked at this point, and that this is all gone on behind his back? Let's play devil's advocate.
But that's the thing, is it? There's a few people that are out there that are like, no, there's no way that he's actually done him dirty like that. There's got to be, and the fact when it came out that it was a one fight deal, I think that's when it really ramped up that maybe they've had this conversation behind closed doors. And I mentioned it with the start of the podcast. Is it all just a ruse, and is it all just a case of, yeah, you go, mate, get the bag, go and do your thing. They might put you in with an absolute muppet just to get your get the ratings up to have you on there. Don't sign an extension, come back, get your 15 mil, and we'll get you a title fight.
But then at the same time, look at it from Dana White's point of view. He's not going to be, he's built the UFC into what it is. It's a mega billion-dollar a year company. Has he got to see that coming? And when he's going, I'm going to give you 15 mil for one fight. Is he generally just thinking, I'll pay you 15 mil for
Unless
one fight?
unless he's got something even bigger planned and he's throwing Conor Benn to the fishes.
What,
Do you
from
know,
Dana's point of view or from Eddie's point of
from
view?
from Dana's point of view, like, who's to say he's not going to throw even more money at somebody? It's going to be a huge fight, but it's one of them that will probably be a bit of a one-sided fight. Like,
So
maybe
almost like how Turkey did when he first come into it, and he put on these mega events, stacked cards from top to bottom, and then slowly but surely over the years, while we're still getting good cards, they're not hitting the peak that there was at the start. The last crescendo and the event where we had Wilder and Parker and Joshua Welling, that it'll then kind of filter down into a more plateaued, equal kind of card. That Dana White's going to come in with a bang, sign Conor Benn, put him in a mega fight, one fight deal, get all the attention in the world, and then just let it filter down naturally and then grow. Is that what we're getting at?
well, no, I don't know, not really. I'm more thinking on the side of it'll be a big fight because Turkey's obviously a part of Zuffa boxing as well, and it'll probably be to make it work. I think they would have to do it on like a Zuffa slash ring promotion, and I think they'll have a big fight in the sense of maybe whether they get Conor Benn back down to fight Ryan Garcia or even if I don't know because who's at 154 that
Champion
realistically,
wise. So you got
yeah,
Josh Kelly, you've got, well, obviously
that
Boots and Virgil haven't got a title, have they? You put me on the spot. I can't think of who the other champions are, but are you thinking that they sign one of the champions and get him over?
That's what I was thinking, but I can't even for the life of me think who the champions are, and that's pretty bad. That wow, who's 154? Oh, Fundora.
Well, Fandora and Thurman, they're fighting in March, aren't they? But they're with PBC, and PBC haven't really been open to Zuffa boxing. Nothing's really been said there, and there's not too many PBC fighters that cross the road into these ring magazines. Like they've put on Zerdo Ramirez and David Benavidez at cruiserweight, great fight. That they've done that off their own back. So it's not like the Thurman and Fundora they're fighting on a PBC card. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I think it's a gamble on both sides. For Eddie, I let him go and be naive enough to think that yeah, I don't need to sign him down to a contract. He's my boy for life. And then Dana White to think, all right, I'll throw $15 million at this for one fight. Well, what next?
But then if he throws $15 million at it, and it's not a case of where it's going to be a big mega fight and they're putting him in with maybe a Shakur or something on a one fight deal themselves, or maybe they put him in with a fight where he realistically can go on and put on a performance, maybe win an interim title somewhere or win the Zuffa boxing against somebody, and then just to turn around and go, here's $25 million that did well. Here's 25 million for a one fight deal or 45 million for a two fight deal or something like that, and keep him on board. I don't know. We don't really know what the plan is till it comes out, but it's got to be something big because he's not used to throwing big money at one individual fighter. So
It's,
there's
it's,
got to be something.
here's one, right? And I'm not sure how much you've picked up on this, but on Twitter, it's been niggling away at people. Different even YouTubers, podcasters, not even respected journalists in that aspect, have been saying the next one's going to blow this out the water. That the Conor Benn news is crazy. Adelipo from DAZN, he said it. That there's something else coming that's going to blow this out the water, and it was something that I was going to bring up in our rest of the news segment at the end, right? What if this is Floyd Mayweather coming back? Conor Benn Floyd Mayweather.
Nah, it
That's your
can't.
that's your one-off event though to make the crazy money.
Yeah, it is, but that could happen as well, because in all honesty, it could happen because if there's anybody that would go and agree to that fight and be that and actually take it if they end up winning would be Conor Benn, where he would look at it as a win-win for him because if he loses, it's the greatest of all time, the best that ever did it, and if he wins, he can go, I defeated the greatest of all
Yeah,
time.
of course, this sounds
So
absolutely
so
absurd.
that could work.
Yeah, our viewers, our listeners are probably looking at it and going like, "Shut the fuck up, man! You don't know what you're talking about." This is, of course, plucked from extreme,
Yeah, yeah, of course it's extreme,
not
but
reality. You know what I mean? It's completely extreme, but we're just trying to make some sort of business sense to all of
yeah,
these
because
kind of millions
in
of dollars a
reality,
fight.
who realistically could they sign that's just as big money? Because it can't be Josh Kelly. Let's be real. No disrespect to Josh Kelly, it can't be him because they're not going to throw that. If this person is going to sign is going to be bigger than the Conor Benn, it's got to be somebody realistically who's at either 147 or 154, and it's got to be a big name.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll
Well,
wait. We'll
who's
wait.
really a big name at 154? We've just like obviously you got Boots Ennis,
The
Virgil Ortiz,
unified champion, what we
Fundora.
were saying before, we couldn't think of the other champions because the unified champion, Xander Zayas from Top Rank. He's unified recently against it was on the same night as Josh Kelly when he beat Metzayilev. Xander Zayas unified the WBA and WBO titles. Again, with all due respect to Xander Zayas, he's a great fighter, but he's not a groundbreaking announcement, is he?
No, no, no. This is what I mean. I don't really understand who the big signing is, unless it is going to be a Shakur or a Ryan Garcia, and they're going to get it on at either 154 or 14,
Yeah.
or 147. I don't know. They're the only the two that I can think because even like Keyshawn Davis
It's
can't
not
really.
seismic, is it? It's not seismic, as it is being
That's what
described
I'm
by
saying. It
these
doesn't. It
journalists.
doesn't. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. There's no one really where you go that would you go wow. Do you know? Oh, in fact, no, because then I don't even see him as a 147. Maybe Tio Lopez,
Yeah, you see,
but
that would make sense, but it's not seismic. Again, we're gonna stay here all night on this. We'll
yeah,
wait to see
yeah.
what's next. That is actually reasonable. Teofimo Lopez moving up to 147. I think he might even be a promotional free agent. Teofimo Lopez and Conor Benn is great business. I'll give him that. Is it seismic? We'll title this podcast the seismic podcast. We'll leave it there because we can get lost in the murkiness of it. It's just nuts. That's what we'll leave it at. It's nuts, and we'll wait to see how it plays out. We'll go from the absurd to the great, and we'll talk about two great pros here. Last Saturday night in Nottingham, Lee Wood, Josh Warrington done it all over again in the rematch. Plenty of bad blood, plenty of spite, and in the end, plenty of respect. Lee Wood run out a unanimous decision victor. Josh Warrington just wasn't the Josh Warrington of old. His brain was telling his body to do things it couldn't do, and ultimately he come up short against Lee Wood in a fight I predicted all wrong. If anything, I thought it was going to be sat here and doing that intro, but favouring Josh Warrington. And I'll swallow my pride here because I'll get my victor later. Um, I got that one wrong. I thought Josh Warrington would have had more in the tank than Lee Wood, and Lee Wood boxed really, really well. He had the damage to his nose, he had the damage to his eye early, and I thought that might have started playing the part later on with the breathing, and if the eye swelled up more, it didn't. And he remained so focused and disciplined. He didn't back himself up to the ropes. He didn't let Josh Warrington swarm him the way a Josh Warrington of old would. I was impressed. I was impressed, and hats off to Lee Wood. He makes it 2-0 against Josh Warrington, which might be a career-defining rivalry. He's got the world titles, but in terms of when you look back on his career, it'll be like, yeah, that was the one. Josh Warrington was his rival. They hated each other, and he beat him twice. So hats off to Lee Wood and Ben Davison and Ben Weil in the team. Great performance, great game plan, executed to perfection, and yeah, impressed. What do you make of Lee Wood?
I thought it was pretty much punch perfect,
Yeah,
weren't it, really? And I think you knew it was only going one way when he got clipped a couple of times, but still abandoned putting his hands up, and he stayed with his hands down, and he relied heavily on his reflexes, beating Josh Warrington to the punch. And do you know what? I don't think it was a case of that Josh Warrington didn't have anything left in the tank, like stamina wise. I just think, like you said, his body couldn't do what his brain was asking him to do, and you could see kind of from like as the rounds went on from like 4 or 5 and onwards, could kind of see that he was never really going to start getting close to Lee Wood, and he just couldn't. And I think he said it after the fight, didn't he? He was like he just couldn't get to him. Like there was no matter everything he tried, he just couldn't get there, and that was just a case of unfortunately the times has
yeah,
caught with you in boxing, and because in reality, like that was a few years ago. Lee Wood would definitely not be fighting with his hands down against Josh Warrington, and it's don't know. It was a bit of a shame the way that he lost so unanimously. It was a bit of a as good of a performance was for Lee Wood. It was left a little bit of a like looking over at Warrington at the end. It was kind of like that's the end for Warrington
yeah.
really, and it was
It was
kind of
anticlimactic, wasn't it, in a way?
yeah. As
Yeah,
good as it was for Lee Wood, and when sat there and he's won the rivalry, he can go off into the sunset. Like he's kind of not going off into the sunset, whereas he's certainly one fighter who's done it the hard way, where it would have been nice for him to go out on a high.
yeah, definitely. If there was going to be one a bad thing, if you want, I was trying to think of a fancier word, but if there's one bad thing, one detraction from Josh Warrington on Saturday night, and you break a fight down much better than I do, but there wasn't any sustained attack to the body of Lee Wood. Especially when you see the damage to the nose and that might affect his breathing. You go to the body, he's renowned as not the biggest puncher. His record would suggest that he's not the biggest puncher, Josh Warrington. I tipped him for a potential late stoppage, but that might have been an accumulation of shots. And we seen Lee Wood hurt to the body against Anthony Kakachi in his most recent fight. But you can hide a shot to the chin, Jamie, as you well know, but you don't hide a shot to the body. And there just wasn't no sustained attack to the body from Josh Warrington against Lee Wood. And that'd be my one detraction from the fight that I thought maybe you could have done better there.
I think, do you know what? He just couldn't get to him. He couldn't get to his body. Lee Wood just understood the distance far too well. I think the feet of Josh Warrington just weren't there. And Lee Wood and his team obviously understood that and picked that up straight off the bat, because the way they set the tactics out, he just couldn't. There was no, and I think the problem with Josh Warrington was the way that he tried to come forward. It was very hands up, and it was very trying to get in. And because his feet weren't there, to Lee Wood, it was quite predictable what was going to happen. Don't get me wrong, he got caught a few times, but it was quite predictable, and Lee Wood was just able to pick him apart as the fight went on. And I think no matter what happened with Josh Warrington, whether he changed tactics or he changed his way of approaching the fight, I just don't think he was at his peak anymore, and I don't think anything that he would have done would have changed it. And I think it's unfortunately, it's time for probably retirement, and I think he probably knows that himself.
He's shown incredible heart though, didn't he? He took some
Oh
big
yeah, it's
shots
hard.
again
You
in there.
can't. Yeah, of course, and he hung in there, and he probably knew at times enjoying the fight. He was like, I just can't. I can't get there, but one shot. I just need one shot. I can. I'm just there because he was only. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. He weren't miles out of it,
Yeah,
but he was just ever so millimeters, ever so millimeters. He couldn't
yeah,
get that.
competitive but losing.
Yeah, he just couldn't get that last bit of range in. He
Mm.
just couldn't get his feet into that range. That last little bit that he needed each time. Obviously, the Josh Warrington of old would have got in there, and he would have caused a problem. Josh Warrington 2 years ago caused him all sorts of problems with the same style. But in boxing, 2 years is a long time, and you can age. Your body can age, and you quite significantly in them 2 years. And he's not had an easy career, has he?
No, absolutely. Both of them, as Eddie Hearn said, modern generational greats, and they really are. They've done it the hard way, sold tickets out the hand. As we said last week, we give it the real big up on last week's podcast. With Lee Wood, did you see enough in Lee Wood, in his legs, in his approach to the fight, in his game plan, in his build up, his makeup? He looked in good shape. He looked massive for the weight. You see enough to think that Lee Wood's got another fight in him? And
Yeah,
if so, who?
on that performance, yeah, he looks like he's got another fight in him, but it depends who he fights because he can't fight Kakachi again because that's all wrong for him. But I think
Michael Conlon?
if you leave Wood, you're 37, and it's probably time again. Just ride out on a high. There's no reason not to, you know. What but then I suppose if he gets a world title opportunity, he's going to obviously jump at that. He's going to feel like, especially on that performance, that he can still mix it with the world champions and probably nick a belt here or there. But I just think on the back of that, selling out Nottingham in
Yeah.
front of all your family and winning quite unanimously, what was the point? What? Because he's probably made enough money on that fight as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the
I think
harm
looking
in
at Kakachi,
finishing?
we don't know what's going to go down in March. Anti Kakachi against Jazzy Dickens in Dublin, which is another great fight. Um, Both of those guys have fought and beat Lee Wood as well. So I think with it being so conclusive the way he lost to Anti Kakachi last time, that that'd be a hard sell. The world title on the line, the fan base of Lee Wood would probably still make it viable business wise. But maybe a Jazzy Dickens, a guy that he's not fought in so many years, if Jazza Dickens was to beat Kakachi, maybe a Jazza Dickens Lee Wood rematch with a world title on the line would be a bit more marketable. But you'd make Lee Wood, with all due respect, maybe an underdog in both of those fights. I'm not so sure. You'll have to see how it plays out in March. In terms of Josh Warrington, he doesn't seem dead set on retirement this time. After the loss to Kakachi at Wembley, it looked very much more ceremonial with the laying of the gloves, and that was it. And he was going to ride off. At that point, he didn't. He come back, and now I think he's hesitant to play it out that way again, to put his gloves down and to say on the back of a fight full of adrenaline, full of emotion, this is it, this is the last one, I'm done. There's a fight there that I wouldn't mind seeing if Josh Warrington was to carry on, almost like a passing of the torch moment, especially in Yorkshire. Josh Padley and Josh Warrington.
Suppose, yeah, but it's not. No, I don't know. It's not really for me. That, like, to be honest with you, I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
want him to
really.
stick around. I don't want him to stick around. I'm just going off what he's saying. I don't
Yeah,
think
if
he's
he's going
dead
to
set on
carry on, then
retirement.
yeah, that does seem like yeah, it seems like a good opportunity. Like you said, passing of the torch. I think it's one
He's not
where
going to go
you've never.
rebuild, is he? He's not going to go and rebuild. He's not going to go and take
No, no, he
a
can't.
couple of
No, no, no.
journeymen with 10 or 12 losses on the record, with all due respect, and look to rebuild and get back into contention. Time's not on his side, both physically and numerically. So I think Josh Padley is a viable opponent for him if he is to stick around.
Yeah, no, he would be viable in that sense. And it's one where if you Josh Padley's team, you probably expect him to win. Like it's not, but and it's crazy to think that. But no, if I'm Josh Warren, I'd probably just leave it there. And I think he's probably just saying that because I don't know, maybe at the time is like you said, the adrenaline and stuff. But his father's even said there, I think it's time, and
Yeah.
you don't want to see him become a gatekeeper to somebody else, and that's the thing as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll just put it out there. I absolutely agree with everything you're saying as well, Jamie. Like, absolutely. I was just chucking out something as an option if he is to stick around, but
yeah, of course.
100%. More than probably. any other fighter off the top of my head that I can name where I think, no, no, I really don't want to see you become a gatekeeper, as you say. You're better than that. Your career's better than that. You're solidified. It's Josh Warrington. Let's not see it go on too long. Just a simple opinion on what if. That's all. But
Yeah,
I completely echo what you're saying there, man. On the undercard, I'm licking my wounds there. I give you and Ramaz Mahmood a great guess last week. All the props in the world there for beating me with a Lee Wood over Josh Warrington prediction. But Bilal Fawaz, the greatest character up and
yo,
coming in the UK boxing scene. What a guy. He's got to be Marmite. The more he goes through the levels, people are going to look and think, the fuck is he doing? And other people like me are going to look and go, that's my guy. That's what I want to watch. He's landing right hands on Ishmael Davis and kissing his gloves, celebrating in the middle of the round. And you know what? We'll go into the fight. He beat Ishmael Davis. He's won the English title last time out against Junaid Boston, and then he's coming to this fight for the Commonwealth and British titles, and he was the massive underdog again, and he beat Ishmael Davis in a good fight, a competitive fight. The first bit I'll get into though, talk to me from your side. You picked Ishmael Davis to win, potentially by late stoppage. 6 rounds down, you'll probably sat there thinking, I can't wait to get onto the podcast. I'm going to give Luke a hell of a load of shit. He's got this one wrong. And then all of a sudden, the tank just emptied. There was nothing left in the legs, in the body of Ishmael Davis from round 6 or 7, maybe. For me, he lost
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
quickly around from there. What went wrong in your eyes with Ishmael Davis? Just
Don't
judge.
know. Like he said, he gassed. He gassed. He's never felt like that before. But maybe the what an issue with why it went wrong. But I'm not going to give any excuses to him because it was a great turnaround by Fawaz. But he's had what now? Is that 4 fights in 5 months?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, or four in 6 months. Like, that's got to play a part. And he's a big boy at the weight. You know what I mean? He's had to make that weight now 4 times in 6 months. He's probably just like I said, his body just can't keep up with that kind of tempo, and he just needs a long, prolonged period of rest. But they probably thought, let's get one more fight out of the way, defend the British belt. Probably took Fawaz as an easy picking, and I'll be honest, I thought it was an easy picking in fight.
So did I in
Um,
fight for four,
you
five,
know,
6 rounds. I thought I've got this completely wrong here. I'm getting pelters.
yeah, I mean, it was proved. I was watching it, and I was like, it's all Ismail Davis, and I was like, he's going to stop him here at some point. He's going to stop him here eventually. Like, obviously, he never looked like he was going to stop him, but there was moments where you're like, he's hitting, he's like, right, he's going to. But he just, even when the rounds he won, even when he caught him, he never followed it up. Really, did he? If you watch it back properly, he never actually really followed up on any of the successful moments he had in them first 5 rounds, especially. And then in round 6 onwards, yeah, he just had literally his legs went. There was just nothing there, and Fawaz made it look like he was the masterful Roy Jones Jr. in there doing all,
He's so
so
unorthodox,
agile,
isn't
just
he? He's
picking him
so
off and
unorthodox.
combinations and dancing on his feet. And it was mad to see because and it just Ishmael Davis had no answer for any of it from round probably 6 onwards. And I think fair play to Fawaz because he never gave up in them moments where he was getting beat. And I don't think it was a case of let's wait until it gets into the second half of the fight because we can take him because they probably didn't expect his gas tank to go like that. The fact that he's gone 12 rounds in his last
Yeah.
3 fights.
And come on strong
So
as well, though, innit? He'd come on
and
strong.
yeah, yeah, exactly. He
Rolling,
comes
weren't
on
they?
stronger. And it was crazy to see him just getting weaker and weaker. And no disrespect to Fawaz because he obviously picked up on that, and he was still a dangerous opponent because still has that one hitter quitter if he had caught him. So fair play to Fawaz because he put on an absolute boxing clinic from the round 6 definitely onwards, and Ishmael Davis couldn't live with him because he was too tired.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to see what's next for Bilal Fawaz because he's certainly put himself in line for some big opportunities on the back of that win, and we wish Ishmael Davis the best of luck on his return from defeat. On the other card, with Dave Allen, say what you want about his opponent with all due respect, but Dave Allen, I thought deserved that. He first punch of the fight, dropped his man, stopped him within a minute. But when I say he deserved it, I think he deserved the reaction of the crowd. That was a real feel-good moment, that for me, regardless of the result. He was always going to go in there and get the win and get the stoppage early. But the crowd reaction, I think that it was something that Dave Allen really, really deserved.
Yeah, obviously it's Dave Allen. We all love Dave Allen, so and it's nice to see everybody cheering him on. at the end, and I think the problem is he's just it's such a big drop from his last fight, selling out, and his opponent really his opponent didn't really want to be in there, did he? To be honest, once he felt that first punch, and it was buzzing to see him come out and get a first round knockout, but at the same time, the opponent weren't really on any level close to Dave Allen. So
Yeah.
don't know what's next for Dave Allen. I'd love to see him in one last big fight, but on a British scale,
Yeah.
on a
We spoke about it
domestic
last week,
scale.
didn't we? We spoke about it last week. Jamie TKV. I'm
Yeah,
all for that. But then if Jamie TKV loses to Richard Riakpo, you start looking again and I think, is this Dave Allen going in with a thunderous puncher like Jamie TKV, heavyweight boxer? All heavyweights carry power, but different fighters have different power. And
yeah,
Richard Riakpo is a much more dangerous puncher than Jamie TKV. If TKV was to lose to Riakpo and then it was Riakpo against Dave Allen, then we're in that boat again of shit. Dave Allen could take a bit of a shellac in here. You know,
yeah. But I
we're
like
not
that
there yet.
fight. I like that fight, me. And I don't know, but I don't really know where to go with Dave Allen. I
Yeah.
don't know whether he's just going to now he's sort of. I feel like his career is going to sort of be like like a lower level Del Boy,
Good show. And the thing is though,
where he'll
is,
be around. I think he's going to be around for another 5 years, and he's
but
just
what if
going to
his
be having.
popularity gets him in trouble again? What if his popularity gets him in there with a Arslanbek Makhmudov or a Derek Chisora, as you say, or Fabio Wardley or Daniel Dubois? One of them two will lose, and then they've got to rebuild, or a Moses Atalma that's looking for a credible opponent. Because Dave Allen shifts tickets, Dave Allen does numbers. It could put him in line for opportunities that he might not be physically able to take. And then we're worrying again then that he's going to take a beating like he did against Fraser Clark and he was pulled out after 6 rounds. You know what I mean? And look where Fraser Clark's gone on to. He's not reached the heights we thought. And Fraser Clark, beat him up. That's the worry for me with Dave Allen because he's a great guy, he's a great character, and we don't always know which Dave Allen's going to turn up on the night. We're promised that it's Dave Allen point 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. His popularity gets him into positions that he might not credentially deserve, if that makes sense. He's a
Yeah,
great
that's it.
fighter,
I think.
but we don't know who turns up on the night.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Dave Allen. He's always, and that's why I say he's going to have like he could be around like Derek has always been around for so long and always getting fights because of his popularity. He's going to have them easy fights where he picks up the W's to keep people interested, and then like you said, probably gets big fight against somebody that's going to hurt him, but he's still competitive in them fights where he gets hurt. So I think the fact that he's always going to sell tickets, he's always going to do the numbers, he is going to always be around, but he's going to make a lot of money fighting the likes of Jamie TKV. Even now, he doesn't have to go and fight them big boys anymore. He can stay around the British level
Yeah,
and make a lot of money fighting,
yeah,
that domestic scene. So I think there's always something in there for Dave Allen. But what they do with him, I don't know. It's just
yeah,
it's a mad career.
yeah. We wish him the best of luck. 'Cause like we say, he's a good guy and he's a good boxer on his day. Let's switch over to the other side of the Atlantic. Jamie, do you stay up or do you have a kip before we get into it? You watch it
Oh
live?
no, I didn't. I didn't stay up. No, I didn't stay up. I couldn't. I wanted to, but then I woke up and I managed to catch the main event, and I watched the others back a few hours later.
You know what? To be fair, and I'm going to give myself credit here. I was at FC United during the day, a couple of beers, home, watching Nottingham card. Fell asleep on the sofa because I always think if I fall asleep on the sofa, I'm much more likely to wake up to go to the toilet. And I woke up and it was half two. And I managed to watch the Frank Martin fight. I put a couple of quid in play on that to be a draw, so that was happy days. I watched Gary Antoine Russell against Andy Hiroka, super lightweight world title fight. That was a good fight, much closer than the judges had it as well. But we'll focus mainly on the main event because it is the megastar, the superstar. Ryan Garcia defeated Mario Barrios. Yeah, he was a heavy favorite going in. Yeah, we all picked him to win. I thought he was going to get the stoppage, but equally, I was more impressed with this over 12 rounds than I would have been if he went and blown him out in 1 round. The physical condition of Ryan Garcia, the mental condition that was on display, the boxing ability, the focus, the discipline, it was all there. It was all mixed up, and it produced a WBC world title winning victory. Really, really impressed with Ryan Garcia there, Jamie.
He was on form. He was brilliant. And the maddest thing is, he didn't really have to use the left hook that much, did he? It was all the right hand. And but I think that's what people forget about Ryan Garcia. On his day, he is of that level. Like he is, he was always destined to win a world champion, but it was the distractions outside of the ring and the persona that he put on. It's what made people think that he weren't as good as what he is. And he's shown that, and it was such a disciplined performance, like you said, both physically and mentally. Because he never even when he had him hurt in the first round, he didn't rush anything after that either, and he stayed composed and he boxed a great game plan, and he showed his boxing ability and his boxing IQ. And we can't disrespect Barrios. Obviously, he was the lesser of the people at 147, but he was still a WBC champion, and he still had big wins himself in his career. So you can't really put it down to the fact that he wasn't the pick of the bunch because he's still world champion. But the way he dismantled him throughout the entire fight, it was a very, very mature performance, especially on the back of his last two fights.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We always play devil's advocate and we try and play both sides of the fence. When you see him box like that, when you see him in physical condition like that, there's always that asterisk, that question mark, that cloud over it, as in, well, we seen when you boxed like this the last time, which was against Devin Haney, and he looked really, really good. We seen what come after it, and I couldn't help but thinking when I was falling asleep at about 6 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, UK time, thinking, are we going to wake up to the news that the fight day test is going to fail? You know, that something's gone wrong here. You know, because when you go so low, like he did against Rolly Romero, and then he peaked so high, like he did on Saturday night, it's just the same as the Devin Haney thing. He looked really, really poor. Peaked with Devin Haney, you're like, where the fuck has this fighter come from? And then we seen the news break after it, and I couldn't help but feel that way on Sunday morning. And you know what? Fingers crossed. Here we are. What 48 hours, 72 hours later, nothing's broke as of yet. So maybe he has just turned a corner. But when you're a drug cheat and you failed drug test, you're always going to be tarred with that brush.
I think that's his issue at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because, like you said, I didn't even really think about that at the time, and now you've brought it up. But unfortunately, yeah, that is, people are going to start thinking that because unfortunately, yeah, before the best performance you had before this was the Devin Haney one, even though like probably didn't win most of the rounds, it was his best performance, and you got popped for drugs. So people are going to now think that because the Rolling performance was that bad, people were like, see, obviously you were definitely on juice, and now you've come and done an even better performance than what you did against Devin Haney, you know. But the difference is, I don't know. There is no difference really. I think with Ryan Garcia, we'll have to wait and see if he does pop. But I'd like to think that he's not going to. But you're always going to. I think every big fight that he wins moving forward, everyone's going to comment. There's always going to be that person that's like, "You're a drug cheat." That's because you're on the juice. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I'd like to think he's not that stupid.
yeah, we'd like
To,
to think so. And again, I was just chucking it out there. But we'll judge him on that fight as a clean fighter, and that performance against a limited Mario Barrios. Don't get me wrong. Um, But I've seen enough there. I think, he starts a favourite against Conor Benn, and I don't think he beats Shakur Stevenson. But if Shakur Stevenson comes up again another division, Ryan Garcia is going to hold the physical advantages over Shakur. It's a lot more competitive than as if we had the prediction of Ryan Garcia versus Shakur Stevenson on last week's podcast. I'll sit here now and go, I've seen enough on Saturday night to think that that's a competitive fight now.
yeah, no, I think he's got the physicality and the speed to trouble Shakur. I think that's why I think Shakur won't be stupid, and there'll be somebody that will put a rehydration clause in for that fight. But I think on his day, he can stand there with anyone really.
Yeah.
Like on that performance, he can stand with anyone at 147, and he probably he could probably become undisputed at that weight division if he really knuckled down and worked hard. But at the same time, I'm not saying that he's destined to be undisputed. I don't want people to think that. But
There's the potential there now.
the potential, like, yeah, it was always there coming up, and I know he's had a couple of losses, but he can do some serious damage in the 147 division if he stays
Yeah.
committed and focused.
Well, that version of Ryan Garcia, let's jump the gun. That version of Ryan Garcia knocks out Rolly Romero in the rematch for me.
Oh no, I think yeah, 100%. He beats and stops Romero,
Yep.
because again he's a limited fighter himself, which why I was shocked that he lost that fight.
Yep.
So I think yeah, you're 100% right on that. I have to agree with you. He would 100. I think he would 100% beat Rolly Romero in a rematch on that performance.
I'm going to sign about that bit out there where it just says, yeah, you're right on that one. I'll just use it every time that I'm wrong with something. I'll just clip it in. Yeah, well, yeah, that brings us to the end of this week's Let's Talk Boxing podcast. We wait to see what comes of Conor Benn. We wait to see what comes of Lee Wood, Josh Warrington, Ryan Garcia, all the fighters on the undercards. Really entertaining week of boxing in and out of the ring. Is there anything else you want to add before we close out?
No, not really. I just think we covered the Conor Benn situation. It was, all the fights that happened over the weekend. But I'm sure, was there not some breaking news that had just recently happened? Maybe I'm missing something. Have I not
It's
seen
not
it?
like I think off the top of my head. Obviously, we had fight announcements of Callum Smith against David Morrell, Zurdo Ramirez, as I say, defending his cruiser
That was it.
title
Zurdo Ramirez
against
and
David Benavidez.
David
Great fight,
Benavidez.
great
I
fight.
think that's a great fight.
Yeah.
I think there weren't really anywhere for Benavidez to go but the Zurdo fight. And I think that's a fantastic fight to be made. I think it's a case of the technical boxer versus the physical, more um, agility based boxer in Benavidez. Whereas I think the technical side of boxing stands with Zurdo. So I'm really looking forward to that one, and I was touching on that when that comes on.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of boxing on this week, we've got the next gen style card from Queensbury, if you like, with Owen Cooper against Constantine Urzu for the British title. Uh, Mason Cartwright is on there. Ben Fale is on there, or Carl Fale, the twins. So I'm sure to get them mixed up. But yeah, some good Queensbury prospects on there. That's on his own. And then early hours Sunday UK time, we've got Emmanuel Navarrete against Sugar Nunes in a super featherweight world title unification clash or Mexican War. Really, really looking forward to that. That's on his own as well. But guys, I really do appreciate you listening to us here on the Let's Talk Boxing podcast. Check us out across social media. Make sure you turn those notifications on. Don't miss a thing. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share. It all counts. Let us know your thoughts and predictions in the comments. I've been Luke. He's been Jamer, and we'll catch you next week.